We are here with Linda Baker. Linda, thanks for taking the time to meet with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking.
So, for everyone that, if you haven't seen one of these videos before, what we do is we have 5 questions that we're going over with all of the candidates to make it fair. And then, depending on the answers, we'll go off on tangents and talk about different subjects. But we like to get all 5 questions to everybody so everyone's from the same, level the playing field. So, with that, Linda, what district are you running for, and what does it cover?
I am running for House District 51. It is most of Topsham. It is from the Bodenham lines up to the cross streets on 196 of Meadow Road and White House Crossing.
Yeah. So everyone that, if you haven't seen some of the other videos, there was every 10 years they do a census. From that census, they do redistricting. And so this is our first cycle with some of these new districts. And so I think this district used to be entirely Topsham before that. And we've grown. Topsham has grown. And so we had to split a little bit. So with that, Linda, question number 2, tell us a little bit about your background and why you're running for office.
Well, I have lived in Topsham for 45 years. I taught school at Mount Ararat for 27 years. I had 3 children go through the Mount Ararat middle school, high school, plus the elementary schools. I served on the board of directors for the Topsham Fair Association. I was on the board of selectmen. I was on, for many years, the finance committee and actually chaired that. I am a member of the Whidden Society, the Friends of Topsham Library, past president and first vice of the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 202 in Topsham. Let me see. I was a regional director for the Olympia Snow Women's Leadership Institute. Wow. And the past Department of Maine legislative chair for the American Legion Association of Maine.
Wow. So you have a lifetime of service, especially in this area.
I do, and it just is what keeps me going. It pleases me. It makes me whole. I'm just not happy unless I'm giving back.
That's wonderful. And being involved in such a variety of different things really allows you to meet a variety of different people and hear what their concerns are and hear what's going on in their lives, which I think is a really important piece too.
It absolutely is. And one of the things I'm enjoying the most currently is I am a state fair evaluator with the Department of Agriculture for Maine. And it is astounding to me throughout the state what you find that doesn't exist in Maine. Issues with agriculture and fairs and harness racing and PFAS. I mean, it's just so enlightening. I'm just having a great time with that too.
Yeah, the PFAS, I think, is going to be something that this next legislature is going to be really dealing with. For those that don't know, that's some chemicals getting into the water supply, and how do you mitigate that, and how do you get that out of some products so that they're safer, and can you, and all of those things.
Well, I actually sponsored and worked very hard on a bill to get the forever chemicals, harmful, toxic chemicals, which were fire retardants mostly, yes. Out of the furniture and things. But I actually was having a conversation with the Brunswick fire chief the other day, and I was unaware that there are PFAS even in the sort of almost rubber lining of the fire gear for our firefighters. So they're wearing it, and even though they have their breathing apparatus on, since it's in rubber, might it be in the rubber gaskets for their masks and more gear that they wear. So that is something I'm going to be taking a look at.
Yeah, no, it's I know Brunswick Landing has some issues with it because of the former military installation and the fire retardant things that were required here. And so my office is up on Brunswick Landing. So, but anyway, more than just PFAS, I'm sure there's other things that you're hearing from people. So question number 3, what are the top 3 issues affecting Mainers right now that you look forward to working on if elected?
Well, thank you. The PFAFs are high in my priority, but in terms of what affects absolutely everybody, I would have to say education, our services and opportunities for veterans and seniors, and the ability to pay our bills. They're actually all very intertwined. So I look forward to working with educational opportunities regarding tutors, more counselors. I think the COVID pandemic has created a huge mental health problem and stress for parents as well as students. And consequently, we also have test scores, which are abhorrent. And we need to take a look at both sides of that. I don't think you can deal with the academic without also taking a look at the mental status for the entire household. You also have childcare issues, training, apprenticeship, and public transportation. So I think workforce is a huge, huge issue in terms of being able to pay our bills, but not everyone can get to either training or a job. Maine is not known for its public transportation. So I think we need to take a look at some of that as well. I think there's just so much we could be gleaning from our senior citizens and our veterans that we are not. I think we need to pay attention to their knowledge and what they have on a part-time basis. A lot of the senior citizens and veterans that I speak with would love to be contributing to their communities, 10, 15, 20 hours a week. They don't want a full-time anything. So there's a lot in there. I think they're all intertwined.
I love that answer, and it matches with some of the things that we're working on at the chamber, because we've seen this workforce thing coming, and we started a workforce program this last year. But one of the fundamental problems is the demographics, and just we have a lot more people retiring from full time work, and we haven't done a great job of backfilling some of the industries or making sure that people have the skill sets to take over for those positions. And so that's where the education piece comes in. But even more than that is workforce development in particular has never had to look at societal issues. We've always had more people than jobs, and now we've got more jobs and we've got people. And so you need to look at that unemployed, bubble of people, however many are in there, and say, hey, some of those might not ever work. They just might not be able to. But for those that are or want to work, what are their societal barriers? And it's education and training. It's transportation is one that we don't think of, because so many of us have cars. But if you can't get to a job, you can't do the job. If you can't get a house near the job, you can't do the job. And so you're so absolutely right that it's going to take all of us kind of pitching in. It's going to take some of the businesses changing their mindset of what their employees need to be. If you've got a senior citizen, if you've got a veteran that says, hey, I've got experience in this, I would love to give you 15 or 20 hours, then you have to say, well, 15 or 20 hours of someone who's passionate and wants to be here is better than trying to look for 30 or 40 hours from someone who's not going to be here. I give the example about childcare. I would love to see a lot more businesses start to have like a 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift. So, hey, if you're a parent that wants to make sure you're home with the kids are on the bus, and when they get off the bus, great. But if you want to work those 5 or 6 hours in between that, let's develop some shifts so that you can and figure out how to do some of that stuff. And none of this gets done just by people in ivory towers dictating on high. It's getting the right people in the room to have these kind of community collaborative conversations, which sounds like exactly the kind of work you've been doing for years and years and years.
Well, I try, and of course, when I was the senator for District 23, I enjoyed being informed of a lot more hands-on, more feet on the ground kind of information. But it always has occurred to me that we had Meals on Wheels. Why can't we have men to jobs? Why can't we have a transportation system for people. And also, if we had childcare in-house, there are so many businesses that have the space, have the ability. I think COVID has taught us a lot. We don't need giant buildings with mega offices. Take a couple of those offices that maybe some of the people in an office are working remotely, they're working from home. Make some space that is communal, and make some space that is for childcare. And if you're on site, I think as a parent, you're a little more willing, if your child has a little runny nose, if they can go to that daycare where you can pop in and out and take, stock of how they are, I think you'd have more output. You'd have a greater work productivity, I think.
I love that idea. Another idea that I've been floating around to some people is the idea of near site childcare. So say the business says, hey, we don't know enough about childcare to have it in-house and figure out how to run it effectively. What if you look at the Topsham Fair Mall, if there was an empty space there? I mean, this is just a for instance, but there's an empty space there. Maybe 5 or 10 of those businesses can help subsidize it or offset those costs or something, not entirely, but to make it affordable for the employees to have their kids go there. And that way, exactly everything you talked about. On their lunch breaks, on their breaks, the parents can go over and check on them and be in there. What would that do for employee retention? What's that do for recruitment? But in order to do all those things, again, you need people that want to collaborate and work together and find those answers, which, sounds like something you're into.
Well, that, and there's also the job sharing aspect that I think is hugely overlooked. If you have two people who want to do the same thing, but neither wants to commit full time, either because of children or other commitments, there used to be a time when job sharing was touted as an advantage, and I don't know where that went. I think that's an enormous advantage in terms of employee retention, but it's also rejuvenating. If you know you're going to, say it's a telephone call center, if you know you're going to do it for X number of hours, as opposed to 8 hours, then you can be a little more enthusiastic and energetic, or waiting on tables, or taking care in retail, whatever it is. I think there are avenues we as a state have not explored enough.
Yeah, and this is where we're going to try some of these solutions in the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years, and some of them are going to work, and some of them won't, and that's fine. Let's start trying creatively. Let's get out of the box a little bit. Let's take maybe some of the ideas that we used to hold, like job sharing, and try them again to see if they work. But again, I'm going to keep repeating myself, but having everyone willing to do that and accept that change is also a part of that. And that's where I think the chamber's role is, to come in and to talk to the businesses and say, hey, you can't just, it's not the way it was. I think the pandemic shifted things. I think we were always on this course, but I think we were maybe another 5 years from dealing with some of the things that we were going to deal with. And then the pandemic hit and it just accelerated all of those things. I mean, the perfect example is the remote work. Before the pandemic, maybe 1 out of 12 businesses, maybe 1 out of 15 was considering, remote work. And now, what is it? One in 3, especially non-service. I mean, if you're in a service industry where you have to be there to cook the food and serve the restaurants, or, you got to be at the mechanic shop and when the cars come in, I get it. But for non-service jobs, I mean, it's the numbers 1 in 3, 1 in 4, which is a gigantic number of businesses.
Yeah, that's a huge curve from where we were. And I think that's very healthy for society and certainly for workforce. I like what we're seeing. I don't like how we got here. I'm sorry, obviously, for the circumstances. But I think there are many, many aspects that would have remained, as you said, overlooked for many more years.
Yeah. Question number 4. If voters could only know 2 things about you before they fill out their ballot, what would those 2 things be?
My honesty and my integrity. They are paramount to me. From the time I've been little, Your mother looks at you and did you take that cookie? Yes, I did. I'm sorry, Mom. It has never occurred to me to be otherwise. Just honest and integrity at number one.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Before I get to our last question, is there anything else that I mean, yes, there are dozens of more issues that we can certainly talk about. But as you think about this video, is there any other message or anything that you want to get out there to everybody that we haven't covered so far?
Civility. I really, really feel that we had it once upon a time, and it was a delightful way for all of us to live and work. I think we need it. We need cohesiveness. We need compromise, and we need cooperation. So no matter who you are, where you stand, where you're from, we need civility. We need to listen to each other, and we need to be willing to help each other.
Bravo. One of the things I say is, on one side, I think that my opinion is the right opinion. But if I stand back, do I really think that every decision I'm going to make over the next 50 years is going to be the right one? No, I know that I'm going to be wrong. So I need to listen to everybody else, yeah, and have them convince me when I'm not right. So love that so much. It's also, if you're not civil when you're dealing with issue A, when you get to issue B, those people aren't going to want to work with you, and that's just untenable, and that doesn't help anybody in the state. So,
well, you're right, and I often reflect on the number of years it took just to create our United States Constitution. That took years, and it was an awful lot of compromise for an awful lot of people.
Yes, it was. Linda, this has been a wonderful conversation. Last question: what's the best way for people to connect with you or find out more about you as a candidate?
Well, welcome to call me. My home phone number is 729-8381. I know I'm a rare breed. I still have a landline. So please use it. And you can reach me via Linda Baker for legislature at gmail.com.
We'll get that email address in the description of the video. And the one thing I like about landlines is they have perfect reception. Perfect reception.
Yeah. They always have reception, and you can always retrieve the message.
Yes, you can. I love it. Well, Linda, thank you so much again for joining us, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you very much.